I always feel like there should be a voice when these things start where it's like the webinar has started. I guess I'm the voice. So hey, if you just joined, the webinar has started. It's Jeremiah Taylor. I'm part of the team here at Movoto. Thank you so much for joining today. And Oscar Garza beat me to it. Hey, if you joined, you're out there. Oh, holy cow! I like looked down and then I looked down again, and 100 more people came in. That's amazing. Welcome to our July masterclass. My name is Jeremiah Taylor. I'm part of the team here at Movoto. If you just joined, jump in the chat. Tell us where you're from. Unless you're in San Diego, because like we all are just upset with you that you have better weather than us. I don't care where in the country you are. San Diego's better. That's awesome. King of Prussia, Pennsylvania, Georgetown, Texas, Albuquerque, New Mexico, San Diego, Chicago, more San Diego, Dayton, Ohio, Missy Houston. I think that's Missy in Houston, not Missy. Maybe Missy Houston's a place. I just don't know. Hamilton, okay, I did this the other day. I confused MO, MT, MN, MI. I don't know.
Montana.
States?
MT is
All
Montana.
right.
Hamilton is in Montana.
Okay. Thanks, Chris. This is why like Chris ace geography. I ditched geography. Uh okay. How we doing? Jenna, we're looking good. We have like almost 1,000 people. Jenna, how many was it? 800 and some registered
Let
for
me
this?
refresh the numbers. We actually had over 800 register, almost 850.
That's amazing. Yeah. Mr. Moses, you know how to draw a crowd, sir. I am excited for this talk today. We will give it one more minute and then we'll get started. So for, hey, those of you who just joined, my name is Jeremiah Taylor. I'm part of the team here at Movoto. Welcome to your July masterclass. We're going to give it 30 more seconds and then we're going to get this thing rolling. And I'm going to kick it over to Mr. Heller. All right, that feels close enough to 30 seconds. We're going. So, again, if you just joined, my name is Jeremiah Taylor. I'm part of the team here at Movoto. Welcome to our July masterclass. A little bit of housekeeping before we get started. Number one, this is being recorded. I know 5 of you will ask if it's being recorded when Mr. Moses just starts dropping knowledge on you. Yes, it's going to be recorded. Yes, we will send it out after. Number two, look, Brian is going to share some best practices, some tips and tricks, and some things that really have propelled his business forward that a lot of you are going to want to implement around buyer representation. Now, I want to set set the stage appropriately here. This is not a conversation around commissions, commission rates, or commissions in general. If you post anything around commission rates, commissions, et cetera, in the chat, it will be deleted and it will not be responded to. This is just a conversation around how do you maximize your ability to demonstrate your value to a buyer, okay? So know that we're not going to get into commission rates. We're also not going to get into like the nuance of, well, in my market, it's this way, that way, the other ways, because we know this is it's super rapidly evolving all over the country, okay? And so what you're going to hear from today is one of the best in the nation at buyer representation, showcasing his value. And you're going to learn a ton from it. So be prepared to take a lot of notes, implement things, ask questions, etc. So thank you very much. Hopefully that was good enough housekeeping. Like 50 more people joined while I was housekeeping. So if you just got here, thanks, welcome. Mr. Heller, I will turn it over to you to lead the way for July.
All right, thanks, Jeremiah, and thanks everyone for being here. It's a Friday. Hopefully, everyone's had a very productive week, and maybe even a productive weekend coming up. We, as Jeremiah said, this is going to be a great conversation. It's something I've been looking forward to. But before I introduce Brian more formally, I just wanted to share some things. There's 2 things as a company we're going to be doing to help you. And when I say help you, if you're in our network, and some of you are, and some of you on here are not, but if you're in our network, there's 2 things we want to facilitate, and that is educating the buyer and the sellers on the importance of being represented and the importance of who represents them. More than ever before, who they choose as an agent is going to be important. And we want to make sure that if they know we're introducing them to an agent, that we're introducing them to the best of the best. The agents with the best track record for success the most experience, and we're going to educate them about that. And the second thing we want to do is make it easy for you to set an appointment and meet with them, because face-to-face is always and will always be the most effective way to have a conversation, to present your value proposition that we're going to talk about and Brian's going to talk about, and to get a commitment and to get a representation or a buyer broker agreement signed. We don't want that happening during the conversation when we make the introduction. And I'm going to share in next week, probably via email with you, some of the things that we'll be doing, so it makes it easier, so you can just go meet with the consumer and then have the conversation that your team, your brokerage, or your association is training you to have. So with that, I want to turn it over to Brian. Brian, it's you guys are in for a treat. Like, Brian is not only a great presenter and speaker, which he does and he likes to do, but really at heart, he's a real estate agent and has been. I got introduced to Brian by a friend of mine who is in New Hampshire, and said, "Hey, there's this young kid who you got to meet, who's really tearing it up." And Brian, I know you know who that was that told me about you, but you know, Rick was really impressed with you. I remember meeting you way back in your early days. You were a young pup, and you were a go-getter. Brian sold over 3,500 homes. He has done what we do for a long time, and to his credit, started working with buyers and buyer rep agreements long before it ever became a topic here in 2024. So I'm not going to say any more because there's important stuff for you to be sharing, Brian. I'll turn it over to you. Thanks for being here.
Thanks so much, Chris. Thanks for having me, team, and putting this together. To all of you who took time out of your Friday, thank you for being here. I promise not to let you down. It really is a privilege, and I don't take this responsibility lightly. I want to share a story with you, though. You know, a lot of people hear of your successes, and when you're a speaker, a trainer, or a coach, you know, you're put up on a platform and a pedestal. But the truth is, I'm just like you. I had humble beginnings. And it was 1995, and I was living commission check to commission check, hustling. I was selling about 40 homes a year. I was working 7 days a week, nights, weekends, and holidays. And I was dating this wonderful woman at the time. Her name was Janet. And her birthday was coming up. And I said, "Janet, what would you like for your birthday?" And she goes, "I know you don't have a lot of money. I would just like you. I would just like you to spend the weekend with me at the Cape, at my parents' house on the Cape. They'll take us to the yacht club. They'll take us to dinner. You don't need to bring any money, and it'll be amazing." I said, "That's it? That's easy." So I committed to going to the Cape with her for the birthday weekend. And I got a call from the Johnsons, who were orthopedic surgeons from Denver, Colorado, who were relocating to my market in Nashville, New Hampshire. And who can guess what day they were coming? They were coming that weekend. Now, the Johnsons were buying an $800,000 house. And I spoke to them on the phone, and I was so excited because that's like 4 or 5 sales in my market. And I sent them to my lender, and I got them pre-approved. And my lender said, "They're great. They can buy anything." And I told Janet, I go, "Janet, can we reschedule your birthday weekend? You know, I got the Johnsons coming in town, and I'm going to pick them up at the airport because I'm not letting these people get away. I'm really going to wow them with service and go the extra mile." And she said, "I understand." And my wife went to the Cape with her family, and I missed her birthday. And I go to the Boston Logan Airport, and I'm waiting for the Johnsons. They're pre-approved. I sent them a bunch of listings they're ready to look at. I added all this value to them, and I'm waiting outside the terminal, and they never showed. I called my lender, and I said, "Any chance you've heard from the Johnsons?" And they said, "Yeah, they're in underwriting. They're clear to close." I said, "Excuse me? What are you talking about?" "What do you mean, Brian? You didn't sell them that house?" "Hold on." The lender looks through his files. He goes, "Oh my God. They bought from another agent at another company." I said, what property did they buy?" 6 Mosswood Circle. The listing I sent them. So listen, gang. I spoke to the Johnsons. I sent them to a lender. We've all done this. I sent them a bunch of listings. I went to the airport to pick them up, and they ghosted me. They came in a week earlier. They weren't malicious. They didn't do it to hurt me. It was just coincidental. They took my listing sheet, they drove by the property, and they called the listing agent and wrote the offer. And I didn't get paid. I share the story with you because that was the line in the sand. That was the moment where I said, enough is enough. We wouldn't work with sellers without an agreement. Why do we work with buyers without an agreement? And I had attended an ABR course, and they talked about how to sign a buyer to an agreement, and they talked about all the value that we deliver. And I think everybody on the call, on the webinar, knows that we do a lot more than just open a door. But I don't think everybody on the call can really articulate all the little things that we do. And today, I'm going to unwrap that, and I'm going to show you how to create an assembly line operation where you can have a buyer department or a buyer machine that's churning out buyer business. And on every Tuesday and Thursday, I would do buyer agreements at my office. And buyers would come into my office, and I'd meet with them for 15 minutes. I'd have a presentation with them. I'd tell them the benefits of working with me exclusively, which I'll share with you today. They'd sign a buyer agreement. My fee was negotiated with them, with the buyer, I didn't accept what was being offered in the MLS. So for those of you that are concerned that, hey, there's going to be no compensation in the MLS, there's no need to be concerned. I'm really excited. We're all going to be on an even playing field from this day forward. And we need to collaborate and work together and not get pissy when, somebody brings an offer and says, hey, we need $6,000 in seller concessions. Present the offer. So that was the day that my life changed. I went to my whiteboard. The Cape was 2 hours away. The Johnsons were gone. And I said, this is what I want to happen. I wrote on the whiteboard, I would like buyers to listen to me. How many of you put a thumbs up, or if you would like all of your buyers to listen to you and heed your advice and your wisdom? You would like buyers to respect you. I wanted to be appreciated and valued. I wanted buyers to have a commitment with me. I wanted them to work around my schedule. I wanted to be the obvious choice. And then later, beyond that, I wanted to teach others, build a team, and have buyer's agents who could duplicate the same process that I did that would produce predictable and duplicatable results. And I created a system where I drew the line in the sand and I said, every time I talk to a buyer, I'm going to convey enough value that they're going to meet with me at my office in person, and they're going to recognize that there's a lot more involved to owning a home, finding the home, getting the best price, navigating all the landmines of a real estate transaction than just picking up the phone and saying, can I see a house at 3 o'clock? How many of you all agree with that? So buyers want choices and they want selection. And we have inventory at our disposal. Now, some of us, we know that when you get into the weeds, there's a shortage of inventory. There's not a lot of homes that meet our buyers' criteria. But initially, there is no shortage of inventory. I'm in Massachusetts right now today. There's 4,000 homes for sale. So when I talk to a buyer on the phone and they say, hey, I was interested in this one house on Oak Street, I say, are you only interested in that house, or would you be open to other incredible, amazing deals as well? Well, maybe, but we really would like to see that house. Fantastic. I'm happy to show you that home. But if there were other homes that were available that maybe you didn't know about, that were off market, that were newly listed, that didn't have for sale signs, and you didn't know that they were available, would it be okay to share them with you? Buyer says yes. Great. So why don't we get together and why don't we get your criteria? So I'll show you all the homes that match your specific criteria. So to make a long story short, I had created a process for booking an appointment at my office. If they wouldn't meet with me with the value propositions that I offered, they really weren't a real buyer. And I wasn't worried about losing them. I'd put them in my nurture campaign and I'd stay in touch with them. But what I found over the years is that somebody who's looking to buy a home, if you can offer them selection and choices, most are going to be open to that and want to learn more about that. So then we do the buyer presentation. They come in, I've qualified them. And now here's what's different. I book the appointment first. I don't send them to my lender first. I don't send them listings. I'm not working for free anymore. How many of you are tired of working for free? It's time to get paid for what we do. Now, if we just think about this with just sheer common sense, if I were coming to your market and Chris and Jenna and Jeremiah referred me to you, and they go, hey, I got this buddy, Brian, really nice guy. He's got a wonderful wife, Janet, 2 kids, and they're moving to your market. How many of you could do a better job for me and Janet if we sat down and had a conversation? So if we could, if you recognize intellectually that you can do a better job by having a conversation with me, learning about our needs, our wants, our lifestyles, what's important to us, why would we ever deviate and run out and show a house that probably doesn't match what the buyer's looking for? So in my over the phone script, I convey that. I've developed great skills in doing that, but I say, look, I'm Mr. Buyer. I'm not looking to be difficult. I'm not looking for more work to do. Anybody can open a door and show you a home, but there's a lot more to finding the right home at the best price than just randomly calling and picking any random house. If getting a good deal is important to you, let me do my job and help you find properties. We have strategies to locate off-market properties. We have alert systems that are better than Zillow and Realtor.com. And I'm happy to set you up on those. And there's no obligation to buy a home or even look at a home. So I got very good at booking the appointment. Now, at the appointment, generally, we get their criteria. What are they looking for? Where do they want to be? What are their needs? And most of us who've been in the business, that's common sense and it's very easy to do. Tell me a little bit about what you're looking for. But I ask them, are you familiar with buyer agency? Or today you could say, are you familiar with this NAR legislation that has changed the rules of conduct in our industry? Yes, no, it doesn't matter. Well, we're obligated to explain buyer agency to you. There's 2 sides to a transaction, listing side, selling side. Now, anybody can open a door for you and show you a home. But now, gang, here's where I differentiate what we do and show value to the buyer. So I'll share my screen, and I have a coaching client in Arizona who created this little cheat sheet from a training that we did, the Do4 team, and they show the buyer this and they go, we have a strategy to help you minimize out-of-pocket expenses. There's a lot of expenses involved in buying a home. It's not just the sales price. How many of us know that's true? There's home inspections, there's appraisals, there's lender fees, there's home warranties. So we have approved and vetted affiliates that we can direct you to that can save you money, and they're more competitive in pricing than many other people and competitors in the industry. For example, we work with lenders that are competitive in rates and do with their interest rates and lower than most other institutions. And Mr. Buyer, do you know that even 1/8% in savings on an interest rate over 30 years translates to tens of thousands of dollars in unnecessary expenses? We'll offer you a home warranty. Now, I'm not saying we're going to pay for the home warranty, but we're going to offer you a home warranty, and that's going to cover many of the mechanical components of the property that you wind up purchasing. So for a small investment and a small deductible, your furnace is covered, your pumps are covered in the well, air conditioning compressors are covered. You can have a rider for appliances. And, you know, as fate would have it, the first year in the house, if the furnace goes or the air conditioner goes, how much do you think it costs to replace a furnace? $10,000, $12,000. So for a small deductible, that can help navigate some of the landmines that buyers come across. Another benefit of working with us, Mr. Buyer, is we have a general contractors list. I bet you everybody on the call has a contractor, has a plumber that you'd recommend, has an electrician that you'd recommend, but we don't articulate the value of what we do. So in my buyer presentation, I tell the buyer, we have a general contractors list that we'll share with you if you decide to work with us. They're approved and vetted. They're competitive in price. They show up when they say they're going to show up. They don't charge a 50% deposit and then ghost you and disappear. Who's ever heard of that? Where a contractor takes a 50% deposit and then never shows up. So we'll help you avoid these landmines that often happen after people purchase a home. We'll make sure that you have a homeowner's policy. We'll help you turn your real estate into an investment and show you strategies to build equity faster with the lenders that we use. We'll talk about the difference between a 15 and a 30-year mortgage or bi-monthly mortgage. We can talk about different programs and special financing programs that will save you money. Mr. Buyer, we have access to inventory. We look at seasonal indicators, rising and declining interest rates to help minimize your expenses. We look at price increases. We look at new developments and new build opportunities. We have access to secret inventory and off-market properties. We'll even talk about when the best time to look at properties are. Let me give you an example, gang. Remember I talked about I was tired of buyers controlling me? I would say to the buyer, so are you starting to see that there's a lot more to finding the right home at the best price than just going and looking at a home? There's a lot more involved. Are you comfortable with my skills and qualifications, or would you like to hear more? And they go, no, this has been really, really helpful. I appreciate it. And now I'm being valued. I'm being respected before I ever put them in a car, before I ever do anything with them. So I talk about, I lost my place here. Hang on one second. When to look at properties, I was saying. So I say, Mr. Buyer, what's most convenient? When's the best time for us to view property in a perfect world? And they go, well, we're available anytime, but the weekends are best. We're off on the weekends. I go, no problem. Here's my concern. If getting a good deal is important to you, price is a function of supply and demand. The more demand there is on a home, the better the price the homeowner receives. So guess when everybody looks at properties? On the weekends. So if we could go look at properties on Wednesday or Thursday and get an offer presented and submitted before Saturday when 50 people go through the house, can you see how that could potentially save you thousands of dollars and not having to get into a bidding war? Well, Brian, I have to work on Thursday. Have you heard of scenarios where properties are selling for $10, $20, $30, $50,000 over the asking price because of multiple offers? In California, $200,000 and $300,000 over asking price because of multiple offers? Let me ask you, Susie, Mr. Buyer, Bobby, do you make $50,000 in a day? Well, when you put it that way, Brian, I guess we'll take a day off and go look at property on Wednesdays and Thursdays. So we have strategies to articulate our value proposition to the buyer. I'll give you a few more. And before I give you a few more, I want to tell you that I take credit for everything. So we work with lenders, home inspectors, title companies, insurance agents. I take credit for everything. The title company does a title search before closing, true or false? Title search, they do a title search. So I tell the buyer, when you purchase a home with me, we are going to make sure that the title of the property that you're buying is free and clear. Can you imagine that there's any liens, encumbrances, encroachments, easements on a property that you purchase and you find out after the fact and you have to hire an attorney at $500 an hour? That's thousands of dollars in unnecessary, wasteful expenses because an agent didn't dot the i's and cross the t's. So what I do is it's called preemptive marketing, gang. Preemptive marketing is when you make a big deal about what you do that your competition also does. But the difference is my competition doesn't make a big deal out of it. So because I made a big deal out of all of these little things, interest rates, no application fees, we'll offer you a home inspection. Everybody offers a buyer a home inspection, but I'm making a big deal out of it. I'm creating value. I'm letting them know that I'm the expert. I'm creating demand. We have a negotiation strategy. You know, any property that you purchase before you make an offer, how valuable would it be for me to print out all the recent sales in the area? Would that be useful, Chris? You know, before you make an offer on a property, would you benefit from knowing what the neighbor's house sold for so that you don't risk overpaying for a property? We're going to make your property, you know, subject to a walkthrough prior to closing. There's been horror stories I've heard where buyers bought a house, they close on the property, they didn't do a walkthrough, and all the vanities and all the mirrors are gone, or they took fixtures out of the property. So in my buyer presentation, in less than 15 minutes, I've made a list. I'll share this with you again so that you can take a screenshot of it. And you can create a buyer presentation. Let me just minimize it so you can get the whole thing in one screenshot. I'll let you take a picture of this so you can take a picture of that. I know it's small here, but you can enlarge it later. I want you to be able to get it all on one shot. And Chris, I don't know, I can share this with you, but my point is we do more than just open a door and show homes. And we've been doing the right things in the wrong order. We've been sending buyers to our lenders, getting them pre-approved, and then they buy from someone else. Or we've been sending buyers inventory, talk to them on the phone, we take their criteria, we set them up on a search, they go drive by the property, and like the Johnsons, it's more convenient to call the listing agent. I decided that ended, no more. And when a buyer on the phone, you know, might say to me, well, why do we need to get together? I can tell you what I'm looking for. Here's what I'd like you to say. Fantastic, go ahead. What they'll typically say is, I'm looking in this town for this type of home, single family, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, on a half-acre lot, in a good school district. I want you to say, what else? What do you mean, what else? Well, you didn't talk about age or condition. Is that important to you? You didn't talk about type of heat. There's electric, there's gas, propane, natural gas, there's oil. Do you have a preference? Does it not matter to you? What about flooring? Is carpeting okay? Do you care about hardwoods? You didn't talk about garage. You know what, Mr. Buyer? Why don't we do this right and get it right the first time? There's over 100 different search criteria that we can customize your search for. And I don't want to be sending you properties and filling up your inbox with properties that don't match your criteria. Do you want me to do that? Because I could push a button right now and send you 300 homes for sale in the state of Massachusetts. How about we get this right? Are you starting to see that there's a lot more to finding the right home at the best price than just, you know, randomly selecting a home and going to look at it? Any comments or questions? I see a lot of my screen's blown up with thumbs up and hearts, and that's always very, very nice to see. I appreciate that. But I wanted to leave ample time for Q&A.
Brian, there was one question that was on the sheet that you showed. Was there just 7 items on there, or did it go beyond 7?
There's 7.
Okay.
I'll share it again.
And certainly everyone's invited to add more to it, right? Because we could certainly think of.
Here's what I'll tell you. Who's ever been to a carnival? So you know when you go to the carnival and you take the sledgehammer and you whack the tablet and the ball goes up and hits the bell, ring the bell, and you ring the bell. When you ring the bell one time, you get to pick a key ring from the front row. 10-cent key ring. When you ring the bell a second time, you get to pick a stuffed animal on the first row. When you ring the bell 3 times, you get to take the biggest stuffed animal off the top shelf. So when you're doing a buyer presentation or a listing presentation for that matter, ring the bell 3 times and you've got them. So I've given you more than you need, but when I do a buyer presentation, I ring the bell 3 times. I show a minimum of 3 things that we do to save them money, to find, that navigate the real estate transaction and demonstrate, and hopefully I did this successfully for you today, that we do a lot more than just open a door. How many of you got some good ideas from just what we shared today in a few minutes? And if you'll pass that on to the buyer, to your buyer presentations, you'll be in great, great shape.
Brian, what was, one of the questions was, you said, hey, before you send them to a lender, meet with them face to face. I certainly know why I would do that, but what someone asked, why? Why don't you give your answer? And if it's different than mine, I'll share mine too.
We have so many different financing programs available to you, Chris. I want to make sure that we match you up with the correct one. So I don't want to just we have lenders that specialize in low down payment loans, seller assistant loans, jumbo loans, different financing. So no different than, a doctor in the medical profession. Prescription before diagnosis is malpractice, right? A doctor, if I called my doctor today and said, hey, doctor, I'm not feeling really good. Could you send a prescription to Walgreens? The doctor's going to be like, are you nuts? You need to come in. I need to check your temperature, take your blood pressure. I need to examine you. I'm not going to give you a prescription. We need to treat our industry, and I'm excited because I think we're on the verge of doing this. We're on an even playing field. We need to treat our industry the same way. Although it's not life and death, I can do a better job for a buyer, a would-be buyer, by meeting them, having a consultation with them, learning about their family, their goals, their hopes, their needs. Like, listen, if getting a good deal is important to you, there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. If you don't care about getting a good deal and you're open to overpaying and you're open to losing money in a transaction, then there's a million realtors out there that'd be happy to take your money, take you out and show you a home. But I'm not one of them. I hold myself to a higher standard. And if there's no obligation, like, let's get together and see if we're a fit. What's your schedule like? If you're not in a rush, we don't need to get together today. We can get together next week. Let's see what Eric says. Unfortunately, all the lead generators have that damn schedule button. Yeah, I got that. So when it's a scheduled button, I don't know how that works in today's world because I've been out of the business a little bit, but I would hope that somebody doesn't say, hey, I'd like to see that house at 3 o'clock, and then an agent just shows up. That doesn't happen, right? So at some point, you're going to call and confirm the showing and go, hey, I saw that you want to see that home at 3 o'clock. I'm happy to show it to you. Ask this question, Eric. Are you only interested in that house, or are you open to other incredible, amazing deals that I have access to? And a real buyer would say, what do you got? Let's take our real estate hats off for a second. A couple of years ago, I purchased an automobile, and I called on this particular vehicle. I was looking for something very specific, and I found a dealer who had it. And I called and said, is this still available? And they said, yep, come on in and I'll show it to you. And I go down there, and this first person I met was really awful. He said, are you just looking? Are you a buyer or are you just looking? And I go, well, it starts with looking. I don't know if I'm a buyer. I guess it depends, but I'm here. And he goes, well, if you see anything you want to buy, I'll be right over here. And I'm like, wow, you are the epitome of awful. And another gentleman came over to me and said, can I help you? And I said, yeah, I'm looking for this particular car. I called and they said it was still available. And he said, it is. It's out back. I'd be happy to show it to you. We have two other vehicles just like that that just arrived. They're a little bit different. Can I show you those as well? What do you think? I said. I said, yeah, that'd be great. And I ended up buying a vehicle, not the one that I called on. So we have access inventory. We want to help buyers find the right home. We want to help them navigate the process. Don't be hesitant or afraid to sell it. Now, in the past, this was a challenging paradigm to get over because I would tell buyer, I wouldn't meet with a buyer. I wouldn't go show a home. I refuse to show a home to a buyer that I've not met with. Just not going to do it. And there were a million other agents that would just show the home. Today, we're mandated that we need to have a buyer agency agreement to show homes. I think it's a great thing. We just need to learn the skills to get the appointments. So now if the whole industry is articulating the reason that we should get together first and start this process together, I think we're going to be much, much happier. Real estate will be fun again. You'll be paid for your time. You will have less wasted time and life will be great. And, we're not talking about fees. In general, you can charge, real estate fees are negotiable. That's one of the mandates. It has to be put in the contract. So you can negotiate what you think your value is worth. No longer do we have to accept what a listing agent thought we were worth. This is exciting, gang.
Hey,
And when,
Brian, I'm
go
sorry.
ahead.
I thought you were gonna pause right there. No, I agree with you. It is exciting, and I think this is and I know my team is excited about this too. The there were a couple questions, and one you was asked, and you answered it. We have consumers on our site that want to see a home. The way we handle that is very simply say, hey, we understand you want to see this home. The conversation that Brian has with his clients when they came into his office, that conversation can take place in the office, can take place at Starbucks, can take place on a driveway, can take place in a park, it can take place anywhere. The key is knowing what conversation to have, being able to articulate your value proposition in a confident and competent manner. That alone sets agents apart from their competition. Brian, there was a question that was asked. It says, all of my clients come from out of town and coming to look at homes.
Sure.
I've never had, it just disappeared. I think it said I never have the opportunity to meet with them first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great question. So generally, right? Generally, nothing's ever 100%, but generally, when a buyer buys a home, they see the home. So at some point, these out of town buyers are coming to your area. So when you're talking with an out of town buyer, I tell them about the fact that we have a proprietary database. I call mine my buyer advantage system. It's the MLS, but we have a proprietary database where if we know what you're looking for, we can get you instant access to all the deals that match your specific criteria so that we're not sending you a bunch of wasteful inventory in your inbox. Now, when are you going to be in the area? And they go, I don't know. Okay, well, let's stay in touch. And when you're in the area, we'll schedule a time to get together and get you set up. Well, I'd like access to this now. I understand, but I refuse to send you listings that don't match your criteria. If I do that, you're going to think I'm an idiot and I'm not doing a good job for you. So if you want a sampling of homes, you can go to Zillow, you can go to realtor.com, and those sites are good sites to get a sampling of inventory. But when you're in the area, we want to get you set up on this proprietary search. So for the person who asked that question, I just say, when are you going to be in the area? You're muted, Chris.
We have a tendency as a group to overcomplicate things, and it's a good reminder to not do that. Steve asked, if you offer a home inspection, are you paying for it? Steve, here, I'll answer that for you. Some agents do. Some agents, part of their value proposition. You know, when you work with me, here's the 7 or 17 or 27 things that we do, and that may be part of it. It's an individual decision.
Yeah, so I also say, when I'm doing the buyer presentation, Chris, and for the person that asked that question, we as an industry offer buyers the opportunity to have a home inspection. I say that in my buyer presentation. It doesn't jar that they don't ever say, well, doesn't everybody do that? They don't say that. It's a value proposition. Hey, when you work with me, Chris, one of the things that we do is we offer you the opportunity for a home inspection. And the buyer goes, oh, that's a good thing to do. And we don't pay, personally, we don't pay for it. We offer them the opportunity, and we can recommend home inspectors that do a thorough job, that are vetted and approved.
Yep.
Great questions. Good group. And
there's some agents that have been using buyer rep agreements, buyer broker agreements for years. There's others that have been working on it for the last several months. There's some that haven't done either. For those, Brian, any suggestions or things that you think would be helpful for them to think about in terms of having those conversations?
Yeah, I think people tend to resist change, and change is uncomfortable, change is scary. I'm also a trainer for Tony Robbins, so I understand psychology, and I've worked a lot on myself over the years. And when we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. So I'm excited about change. I see change as opportunity. I know that if you keep doing what you've always done, you'll keep getting what you've always got. And if I want to grow, the only way that I can grow is to be open to change. So I see change as a good thing. So that's kind of a deeper answer to your question. But for the people that have been stuck or not doing it, embrace it, be excited about it. This is an opportunity for our industry to take control over the business. For years and years and years, as an industry, the buyers have been controlling the show. Hey, I want to see this house, and I want to see it now. I want to see it right now. And if you don't show it to me, I'll call somebody else. I was done with that in 1995. I've never missed my wife's birthday ever again. I've never missed my kids' football practice. Forget games. I've never missed their practice. I don't let buyers control my schedule. And let me tell you this too, this is exciting. This is a fact. I was doing 42 deals a year in 1995. I did 108 in 1996, and I worked less by implementing buyer consultations. I stopped wasting my time running out, sending listings to people in the hopes that they would call me. I went from 42 deals to 108.
Hey, Brian, here's a great question. Darlene asked, in states that allow and permit dual agency, what's some of your objection handlers to a buyer who says, hey, I'm just going to go straight to the listing agent, or I'm going to call the listing agent, or I want to work with the listing agent?
Sure. So I can imagine that you want to work with the listing agent because you want to save money. The buyer says, well, yeah, that's the primary reason. Well, if getting a good deal is important to you, there's 20,000 agents in our marketplace. What is your plan to reach 20,000 listing agents? Do you want to exclude all the listings in the market? So I have a better idea. There's no obligation to buy a home with me. We have this program, and now I'm selling my benefits again. We give you access to everything. We even have strategies. If I know what your criteria is, we can direct mail neighborhoods and find properties that are interested in selling before they ever go to the market. And when you're working with the listing agent, there's if you're not the listing agent and that was the objection, you could position it so, that would be a dual agency scenario. They're representing the seller and the buyer. Here, I'm representing you exclusively. So those are a couple of one-liners that I would use in that scenario. But nobody working with a listing agent can work with all the listing agents. They're missing out on inventory.
Yep. Yeah. I think there's and I want to get your thoughts on this, Brian. There's an opportunity here that is being mandated, but it's a big opportunity. And that big opportunity is that there's going to be an opportunity to essentially list buyers, right? Just like we do. If we had an opportunity to list as many homes in our marketplace, we would all want that. We would all do that. We all try to do that on a daily basis. Now we have that opportunity with buyers. And I think there's one type of agent, but there's two mindsets of the agents out there. And one is that they are saying, okay, how can I do this at the highest level, most effectively, quickly and efficiently? And then there's another group that their mindset goes, this won't work, that won't work, this is bad, all that. There's those two very, very different mindsets going on at the exact same time. And I know which mindset is going to be the agents that are having a lot of success and which one is one that are going to be not real happy. But what are your thoughts on that?
There's an old saying, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So both mindsets are right. If they go, this is bad, this is horrible, they're going to be right, and they're going to be poor, and they're going to suffer. It's a choice. Our mind is a choice. Another thing I wanted to talk about, though, because I've been hearing a lot about, so we talked today about what we do and what we do and the value that we add. After I go through that, I say to the buyer, can I share with you how we get paid? See, we don't need to hide behind how we get paid. We don't need to be ashamed of how we get paid. Anybody ever been to a closing in the past? You know, you've shown a house, you didn't articulate your value. The buyer's going through the HUD settlement statement and they see the commission that's going to your agency and they go, because they don't know what you did. They don't understand all that you did. And now they begrudge you of your living. So by doing this the right way, you have nothing to hide behind. So I articulate those 7 points, maybe 3 or 4, ring the bell 3 or 4 times. And then I say, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, can I share with you how we get paid? We get paid. You can pay us directly. So you can pay us directly. We can get paid from the proceeds of sale, which is more traditional and customary and has happened for years and years, where you buy a property and our fee comes out of the sales price. But real estate fees have never been free to buyers because the buyers are buying the house and we're getting paid. It affects the seller's net and the buyer's gross. So if everybody would get in the habit of saying, we get paid from the proceeds of sale, the seller doesn't pay us. The co-broke doesn't pay us. We get paid from the proceeds of sale because without the sales price, there is no money to pay us. So it's a big pizza pie and it affects the seller's net and the buyer's gross. And I tell them, my fee is this. We're not going to get into fees, but you can determine what your fee is. And this is how we get paid. We can get paid from the proceeds of sale. You can pay us directly, or there can be a combination of the both. And it's easy peasy, gang. It's easy. And they go, okay, do you have any questions? And in 1995, I said, this is what I'm going to charge working with buyers, X%. And if what was offered in the past was short, we had a deficiency. Well, guess what? Today, there's going to be a deficiency on every transaction going forward because there's going to be nothing offered. And I'm not sweating it, right? Because we need to cooperate. So if I go to Chris and I go, hey, Chris, I've got an offer on your listing, and included in the offer is a concession, present that to your seller and let me know what your seller says. The seller can accept it, reject it, or counter it. Now, if we get a listing agent who's not skilled and not up to speed on this, and their head's been in the sand, and they come back and say, there's no way my seller's paying this concession. Okay, so what you're telling me is the seller wants to net this. So 500,000, we're asking for $20,000 in concession. Seller's not paying $20,000 is what you're saying. That's right. So what you're saying is the seller wants to net 500,000. Yes. Then would you be willing to counter the offer at 520,000 with the 20,000 in concessions? Because my buyer needs those concessions and it gets the seller what he needs. So we need to work towards a win-win scenario. Is this making sense?
Complete sense. And when you think about it, it's what always has happened. Negotiations of that sort. There's Lauren asked a question and that is simply, do you have a list of all the things that as agents we should be asking a buyer? So if we're in a buyer consultation, is that something like a resource that you have, Brian, or can they contact you for that?
Yeah, I have a buyer profile sheet. Let me see if I can pull it up and give you so you can take a screenshot of it.
While you're looking for that, Mark said you taught him that over 18 years ago.
Oh, Mark Giosa, great to see you, buddy. Good to see you. Haven't seen Mark in a long time. Great guy. Okay, I found it. Let me share my screen. Okay. So we gave this to my team. So, when the buyer comes in, we say, where are you looking? What's important to you? What else? What about condition? And I want to gather as much. I'm not going to narrow the criteria by all these factors, because then nothing would come up in the search. But I want to know what they like, what they're looking for, what their hot buttons are. I'll ask questions like, how many in your family do, are there any allergy concerns that you have? Any special needs? Anyone anybody have any special needs that we need to consider in looking for homes? Are school systems important to you? So tell me a little bit about yourself and your family. What's important to you in the buying process? So this is my buyer profile. And then I say, should I be able to find something that matches your criteria? And I'm confident I will. How can I get a hold of you? I don't have them sign it immediately. I'll just take this as an intake form, but let me make this so that you can copy it. And this is my little question.
And what a better idea might be, if you're okay with it, if you want to send that to us, we'll send it out with the recording and have your contact information on there.
I'll send you this as well as my little cheat sheet that I showed earlier. I'll send you both.
Excellent.
But yes, here's the thing. We have a system and a process for everything, because failing to have a system or a process is failing to optimize your income. It's failing to optimize the value that you're offering. How many of you have ever been to a restaurant and the waiter, the waitress comes up to you and says, "Hi, my name is Brian and I'll be taking care of you today"? That's a process. Can I offer you a drink? Right? We've all experienced that. But in real estate, you could talk to 20 different real estate agents and hear 20 different conversations. So you want to create a process that is duplicatable and predictable. Any other last minute questions? This has been great. Everybody's hanging out and a lot of great comments, a lot of great questions.
Yeah, and there's this is for a lot of you, this is new, and it's going to be new and different. Here's just breaking it down into bite-sized pieces for everyone. Know first and foremost, know what your value proposition is. Practice it, role play it, share it with your partners, your colleagues, your anyone that'll listen to you, and get comfortable and confident sharing that. We hear consumers all the time ask the question, well, And if they don't ask it, they're often thinking of it. Well, why should I work with you? Or what do you do that's different? And it doesn't necessarily matter what it is. What matters is that you have one and you can communicate it concisely and confidently. That's the first thing. The second thing is decide what your process is going to be. You know, going through your value proposition, going into the next step, here's how we get paid. Understand that this is stuff we think about every day. The average consumer that we meet with is not thinking about this, has not thought about this, doesn't know about how things were done or how things are going to be done or what changes or lawsuits or those things. Have a few heard about it in the news? Yes. Do they understand it? No. So don't get caught up on that. And nor do you need to explain the whole genesis of changes, right? They don't care. That's not relevant or pertinent to what they want to do, which is to buy a home. So just like any accountant you're going to hire, any lawyer you're going to hire, the surgeon you're going to choose, you want the best, and you want for you to make that decision, they communicate what their value proposition is. And if they're a professional lawyer or accountant, they're going to have a letter of engagement that you're going to sign before they go to work for you, which is just what we'll all be doing too. Brian, any closing thoughts? We have about 2 minutes left.
I really appreciate the opportunity to share my experiences, hopefully make an impact in these agents' lives. I'd ask that you follow me on social, and if I can support you in any way, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm on all, Facebook, Instagram. Yeah, I'm just very grateful, Chris. We've known each other a lot of years, and you've become a great friend. You've added tremendous value to our industry, and I'm super, super grateful to be, in your network, in your fold, so to speak. So thanks for having me.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to be here. It was great information. We hope you got good notes and good ideas and made you think about things in a new way. Have a great weekend.